Welcome back. This is going to be part four of the Transformers, the creation of a billion-dollar brand. So last time we were talking about Jace and the Wheeled Warriors. And the reason why I bring this cartoon up is because a lot of the elements, along with what I was also talking to you before about, were the beginnings of what Hasbro was looking for. But it did start. You see, the whole transforming thing didn't start with what Hasbro would do with the Transformers. It started in various sectors, and then Hasbro found a toy line that fit this mold. But because none of these toy lines, of course, would have they would be popular, but they wouldn't have the same kind of branding and the same kind of staying power that Transformers would have. And that's why I'm going through this, because a lot of these elements other people had, and it didn't just start with Hasbro. Other people saw those trend stacking elements, but they were not able to make it as successful. But nevertheless, with Jason the Wheeled Warriors, you had a lot of these trends. And as I was going through this in the last episode, the leader of the villains of Jason the Wheeled Warriors was Sawboss, who transformed along with his other minions. We go to another cleaner page so I can draw some of this out. But nevertheless, they would change into different things. And so the element of, let me do Sawboss again, and so that many of the elements, so Sawboss would be a human, organic form, let me just say it like that. He would be an organic form. I remember he had something like this. He looks something like this. And let me just do his hands. Almost like the alien, if you could see this. Almost like the alien. And then he would change, and he had a little cape here. But almost like the alien in terms of his big chrome. But then he would change into a vehicle. Let me see if I can draw it here. He would change into a vehicle. I used to have this vehicle. Let's see here. And it had a big back wheel here. Let's see if I can do it like this. Now these are just rough sketches, but anyway, it had a compartment back here, and it had his eyes there, and this, and teeth, and then it had a big saw here. But these are just rough sketches here. But he would go from that. He would go from here to being a vehicle. And with that, you also had the heroes whose vehicles alternated. Many of their vehicles were of various different sort. The hero's vehicle was more engaged like this, and it had a big wheel here, and then had to counterpose Sawboss, a big, almost like a steam shovel thing. And it had two wheels here. But nevertheless, it could do various things, and sometimes, it would have a gun that would fly off and everything else like that. But anyway, people could see the varying degrees. And all of these things happened. These shows hit the airwaves as well as the toy lines before you had the Transformers. And with Stephen Hausenfeld, and even as I went before, I was talking about Mask, but all of these elements were there. And when Stephen Hausenfeld gave the green light for a group of Hasbro marketers to go to the 1983 Tokyo Toy Convention, the idea was to find a toy line, because all of these other brand names and shows, more or less, had origins in terms of Japanime. So he gave the green light for a bunch of marketers to go to Japan and to look there at the various toy lines and see if there were any of the toy lines that would match up with the trends that he was looking for. And at the 1983 Toy Convention, Tokyo Toy Convention, they saw this toy line that was called Diaclone. And Diaclone was the rudiments, shall we say, of what would become the Transformers. Now here is the story of the creator, whose name was Hiroyuki Obara. Who is credited as being the originator, or certainly, let's just put it this way, he was the first to get to the patent office. But anyway, Hiroyuki Obara is the person who owned or has the patent to the Transformers, and therefore, because of that, is credited with being the originator of the Transformers, if not the inventor. But another company had the master rights, and that company was Takara, which was a Japanese, and still is, a Japanese toy manufacturer. And Takara brought this toy line to the Tokyo Toy Convention and was trying to develop it into one of its new products. But the people from Hasbro saw that, and they saw a lot of potential in this toy line, which was, in its originality, a toy line designed where the vehicles would in and of themselves just change into robots, and they wouldn't need to have any human or organic agency. But nevertheless, they were robots in and of themselves. And when Hasbro saw that, they said, "Well, we would like to bring this back to the United States and own the trademarking and certainly the marketing rights within the United States." Well, Takara agreed to this as so long as they could share and keep the master rights. And Steven Hassenfeld agreed with this. And he said, fine, we'll see what we can do with it. But it needs to be tweaked. I'm not quite sure if I want to go into this, but maybe I will. I can get this done in 5 minutes or less. The original names were all just outsorts of the various action figures. The only one that was recognizable was the action figure that would become Optimus Prime, but you had a lot of other things that were just not correct in terms of the marketing, the naming, the branding. First of all, the Autobot Decepticon thing was not there. The factions of robots, to put it mildly, but that's the way we have to describe it here. The faction of robots were named differently, and the good robots were named Cybertrons. And the bad robots, or the enemies, were named Destrons. Now, those were names that were, I guess you could just say, working names. But nevertheless, you could see elements of things that would mature in other, or at least underneath or under the Hasbro brand. The Cybertrons, at least, now these were the good robots. You can see where we have the name of the home planet of the Transformers, Cybertron. So that would mature into something else. And the Destrons, well, the root word of this would become a beloved character of another show, namely G.I. Joe, where one of the head villains was Destro. But you see, all of that started, of course, with the early beginnings of what was brought back from this 1983 Tokyo Toy Convention. And we're going to get into more of this because what they had to do, what Hasbro had to do with this very raw toy line, is find the right people who could not only name, brand, and create a coherent story and narrative that would connect with children, but who could also give the toy line the right kind of polish, and certainly the development of the characterizations of each of these, which would become very beloved characters, no question about that. But they had to find the right people. And in the next episode, we're going to get into who they went to in order to give the individual robots their characters, to give the toy line a story arc and frame, and to give it a brand that would stick in the imaginations of the children who would grow up with it.